Hey, everybody. I am so sorry I can't join you this morning. I was really looking forward to this meeting and seeing everybody's work. I've started poking at the ones that were up late last night when I was submitting mine. Um, Life evolved this week, so I couldn't be in this morning. But here's a little tour of what I put together. Let me share my screen. So here is the assignment in the module, right? So I've got the module up in the repository, and there's the instructor guide. Nothing too surprising there. So what I'm asking students to do, I think one of the issues I have already with it is just it's a little heavy on the data collection since it's a stats class. And we're not really investigating how we get good data and all this stuff. I couldn't find a better way to do this data yet. Although there's some advantages to this. Maybe it's good to introduce people to how sometimes things can be a little bit tedious and you just have to dig in. So my project is about canopy cover. And so what I'm having them do is gather data on tree canopy and median household income. And what I finally found was maps that divided it up into census blocks. And so they correspond. So I've got those in here. Here's the link to the canopy cover by census block. I've got instructions, so it's actually pretty cool data. There's a lot of cool stuff. They give this kind of equity score, but we're focusing in on the tree canopy cover percent. And so as you go through, right, you can see as I hover over each these census blocks, right, you get the tree canopy cover percent, and then if you want to click on the side, it's got some other information going on. So there's one set of data, and at the same time, or not at the same time, but concurrently, let's say, there's this map with the same census blocks, except now when you click on one, this block up here, where it's a census block group, has the household median income. So what I'm going to ask them to do is go through, right? This is the part that's a little bit tedious, right? They're going to have to click. Let's look at an easy one, right? I can click on this one that contains Seward Park because that's easily identifiable. It might not be visible on the video as well as it is for me, but I can see it pretty clearly here. And so, right, they can come to this map, go find Seward Park, and click on that there. And so now we've got, for the same region, we've got the percent canopy cover and the median household income. So I'm asking them to do that for 20 census blocks. And here's one of the first big issues is I'm just asking them to choose randomly, like we're taking a random sample. And I didn't put this in the instructions. I expect that there's going to be a lot of problems with that, right? That a lot of students won't take care about how they choose randomly. And I'm kind of letting that lie on purpose. I sort of want to do a sub-experiment on my own and see where the data ends up coming from. Do we see people clustered like in the kind of the census blocks that we open on when you open the map and things like that? So I'm going to kind of do my own little stats project on the side just to see how it works. But we will discuss these kinds of problems at the end of the project. So I'll come back to that. And then after that, it's pretty simple. They're going to take this median income. We're going to do a couple little small exercises on doing a hypothesis test. I make a claim about the median income in Seattle, and they'll use their sample to test that claim, and then use their sample to also create a confidence interval, right? So at this point in the quarter, when I've done it, hypothesis tests and confidence intervals, they'll have done a lot of them, but this will be maybe the second time they've done it. I guess we do an exercise in class where we roll some dice. It's been a few quarters since I've taught this class. I'm trying to remember all of the things that I do. But this is kind of the first real world data that they've collected. There's a few times while I give them data. So they're going to do that. And then the big task is the correlation between the tree canopy cover and the income, right? So they're going to get this data, put it into a spreadsheet, and then use the software in the spreadsheet to get a trend line and correlation coefficient and all that stuff, and see if there's a relationship there. That's the big project. And then at the end, there's a discussion, and that's where the discussion, I should say, is them. I'm going to have them write it up. I'm going to give this in a online class. I probably eventually will do it in the in-person class as well, but I'm also doing that CO2 study, the CO2 sensor group, and I have a task that requires people carrying that around. So my in-person class is going to do the CO2 one, since they'll have access to at least my sensor, and just kind of see how they both go, and then come back and see which ones I want to keep, what I want to tweak, all that good stuff. So anyhow, the discussion will be a little write-up they do at the end about the conclusions and any of the issues they might see. And that's where we'll get to talk about like the problems with sort of just asking people to choose randomly. And then at the end, there's this take action part. I still feel a little like weird in a math class, let's say, enforcing that people go do something, like go to a meeting or something like that. I guess I don't know for sure that that's, I don't know, something I'm allowed to do or something. But I have a list of, I'm asking them to choose from an option, a set of options of actions they can or can take or will take in the future, because some of them it depends on. For instance, if I'm doing this in the fall, one of the actions they can take is signing up for the Trees for Neighborhoods program, which takes place in the spring. And so I think that's a reasonable action, is just to send that email and to put your name on the list. So then in the spring, when they're giving out trees, you get that announcement. And there's a few other things in here. There's some tree planting events and these urban forestry commission meetings. So all that kind of engagement stuff. I'm letting them choose it, because I know we have, I don't know, I don't think all of these are possible for all students. Like if you don't own property or have a good relationship with the property owner, it's hard to convince someone or to sign up to get a tree on your property. So there's a few options, and then a few other links to some just places that have lots and lots of things. And I explain in there too that you know, obviously when people live in different areas, all the Seattle stuff might not be relevant, so they can find comparable things to do there. And that's about it. Couple things I know I want to fix. One is I haven't actually gone through and done this in totality, right? I've gone through and just, you know, looked at the process of collecting this data a little bit. One thing I know I'll add by fall is I will have done this whole thing, and I've done this in the past. This is an example of one I did a few quarters ago, which is data about nurse salaries, and doing a very similar kind of thing with nurse salaries. And so I did the project, and I made a template for them, mostly for myself, so that when I'm grading them, I don't have a nightmare of where all these different pieces fit. And so what I've asked them to do is put like the hypothesis tests and confidence intervals right in the spreadsheet, do all the computations in there. You know, they can use the spreadsheet software to make that happen. And here's the regression for that data. So I still have to set that up, because I want to make it for this data and see exactly what would be the nicest presentation for that, and make a little template. The other thing I really want to do is I do want to see if it's possible. I haven't found a way to download all this data, or I'd rather just have a list of census blocks by number, and then the data I want for each census block. And I have not found on these sites. Usually they have them somewhere, so I might just have to do some digging. The spreadsheet of all the data that these visual representations are giving us, because then the whole the random thing can be handled with a random number generator. That's what I did with the nurse salary. I just had them, you know, I had like a couple thousand pieces of data, and they took a random number generator to give them 40 numbers in that range, and pick those pieces of data. But I think this is, you know, I'm taking this also as an opportunity that this kind of stuff can come up in discussion about what, you know, what does it mean to be random? And I'm hoping something interesting emerges. If I have a nice little plot of where all the data came from, we might see some clustering in certain areas, and that might lead to some interesting conversations kind of on the side of this. Oh, and the other big one is that I can't find on these sites really detailed information about precisely where they're getting their data from. And this is something we talk about in this class a lot, that since it's an intro stats class and we're mostly trying to learn how to deal with data, we don't spend much time. We kind of acknowledge at the beginning, like, hey, a lot of the data we're going to use might be bad, and we're not going to spend weeks figuring out, where it came from and examining all these things. So we kind of have to take all the data with a grain of salt. And this is a big one for that, because I don't know yet exactly how they sourced all this data. And so that'll be also a piece of the discussion that will come up right at the end. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling now. I think that's everything I needed to say. Thanks everybody. This was a great time. And I'm pretty happy with it. Like, it definitely needs some improvements, but I've been doing that nurse salary data one for a while, and I was getting pretty bored with it, and it felt like it needed a refresh. And this is a very similar thing, but I think there's a few improvements to it, and I'll continue to. I'm not doing it till the fall, so I've got a summer to tweak this thing into the way that I want. Okay, I hope you guys have a lovely day together, and I'll see you soon.